The emergency alarm echoed through the massive halls of the Galactic Council. Commander Tae-ho Kim sat in the back row of the Great Chamber, watching as hundreds of alien beings rushed to their seats. The Korean officer had been Earth's military representative for only 3 months, but he had never seen such panic in the Council before. "The Outer Rim systems are gone," announced High Counselor Vexithara, her reptilian voice shaking. Her scales, normally a bright green, had turned pale, with fear. 12 star systems in the past week. No survivors, no wreckage, nothing. Dr. So-Young Park leaned over to whisper to Tae-ho. "The readings make no sense. It's like the stars just disappeared." She was Earth's smartest scientist, and if she was confused, things were bad. Ambassador Jin-Woo Lee stood up from his seat. As Earth's main representative, he tried to look calm, but Tae-ho could see the worry in his old friend's eyes. "What exactly are we dealing with?" Jin-Woo asked. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of the galaxy with red dots marking the missing systems. The red was spreading inward like a disease. Sage Mordun, an ancient, crystal being who had lived for thousands of years, spoke in his deep, echoing voice. "We have a name for it now, the Void Swarm. It comes from the space between galaxies. It eats everything, planets, stars, even light itself." The chamber filled with frightened voices from dozens of different species. Some aliens made clicking sounds, others howled, and a few simply trembled in silence. "How do we fight it?" asked General Korthak of the Hegemony, a proud warrior race that had never lost a battle. "We don't know," Vexthara admitted. "Our scouts who got close enough to see it, and they never came back, but we did get one message before contact was lost." The hologram changed to show a damaged spacecraft. Static filled the audio, but a terrified voice came through. "It's not just eating matter, it's eating our fear. The more afraid we get, the stronger it becomes. It feeds on our terror and—" The message cut off. Tae-ho felt a chill run down his spine. He had fought in many battles, but this was different. This wasn't an enemy they could shoot or bomb. This was something that fed on the very emotion that every living thing felt when facing death. "We need to evacuate the outer colonies," suggested Ambassador Ethiel of the peaceful Xantharian Republic. "Pull everyone back to the core systems." "And give it more systems to consume?" snapped General Korthak. "We fight." "With what?" Vexthara spread her clawed hands. "Our most powerful weapons, our greatest fleets, they mean nothing against this thing." The arguing continued for hours. Each species had ideas, but they all involved running away or using the same weapons that had already failed. Tae-ho listened carefully, but something bothered him. He pulled out his tablet and started looking at the reports again. Dr. So-Young Park noticed what he was doing. "Find something?" "Maybe," Tae-ho said quietly. "Look at this. Every species that survived an encounter with the swarm has something in common." So-Young looked at his screen. The data showed 3 different alien ships that had escaped swarm attacks. They all shut down their main systems, she realized. No shields, no advanced weapons, no AI computers. "They survived by becoming primitive," Tae-ho said. "The high-tech ships got eaten first." Ambassador Jin-Woo overheard them. "Are you saying our primitive human technology might actually help?" Before anyone could answer, new alarms rang out. A messenger ran into the chamber, his blue skin turning purple with fear. "The swarm has reached the Kepler defense line," he gasped. "Admiral Zeftos is requesting immediate reinforcements." The chamber's main screen showed the battle. The Galactic Council's greatest fleet, 50,000 ships with technology that humans could barely understand, faced something that looked like living darkness. The swarm wasn't ships or weapons. It was a moving shadow that seemed to absorb everything it touched. The Council's ships fired their most powerful energy beams. The weapons that could destroy planets struck the darkness and simply vanished. The shadow grew larger. "It's absorbing our attacks," whispered Sage Morden in horror. "We're feeding it." On the screen, the mighty warships began to disappear into the darkness, not destroyed, simply gone as if they had never existed. The shadow moved toward the next group of ships. "Retreat," ordered Vexthara. All ships fall back to the secondary line, but it was too late. The swarm moved faster than light itself. In minutes, the greatest fleet in galactic history was gone. Only a few scout ships escaped, and only because they had turned off all their advanced systems and fled using basic engines. The chamber fell into stunned silence. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been destroyed in less than an hour. "We're all going to die," someone whispered. Fear filled the air like smoke. Tae-ho could smell it, taste it. Every alien in the chamber was terrified, and, according to the reports, their terror would only make the swarm stronger. But humans had something most aliens didn't understand: stubbornness. Tae-ho stood up. "With respect to the council," he said loudly, "you're all thinking about this wrong." Every eye in the chamber turned to him. Some aliens looked angry that a human would dare speak at such a time. "You're trying to fight this thing like it's a normal enemy," Tae-ho continued. "But it's not. It eats advanced technology and fear, so maybe we need to stop giving it what it wants." "And do what?" Vexithera demanded. "Throw rocks at it?" Tae-ho smiled grimly. "If that's what it takes." The shadow on the screen had reached another star system. As they watched, an entire solar system simply ceased to exist. The darkness was coming for them all, and the Galactic Council, for all their wisdom and power, had no idea how to stop it. But Commander Tae-ho Kim was already forming a plan. It was crazy, dangerous, and would probably get them all killed. In other words, it was perfectly human. The swarm was coming, and the galaxy's greatest civilizations stood paralyzed in terror. Only Earth's representatives remained calm, ready to do what they did best: the impossible. The reports kept coming in, each one worse than the last. Commander Tae-ho Kim watched the galaxy map as more star systems turned red and then disappeared completely. In just 2 days, the Void Swarm had consumed 30 more systems. Captain Ye-jin Choi, Earth's best pilot, burst into the emergency meeting room where the human delegation had gathered. "Sir, I just got word from the Council fleet. They lost another battle group trying to slow that thing down." Dr. So-Young Park looked up. From her computer screen, her face pale. "According to these readings, the swarm is getting bigger every time it eats something, and it's moving faster now." Ambassador Jin-Woo Lee sat heavily in his chair. Around them, they could hear alien voices crying in the corridors of the Council station. "The Centaurian ambassador just told me his entire species is planning to flee to another galaxy," he said quietly. "Can't blame them," said engineer Kyungmin Seo, looking up from the weapon designs he had been studying. "The Council's best scientists can't even figure out what this thing is made of. Every scan just shows nothing." General Dae-hyun Nam, Earth's highest-ranking officer, walked into the room with a grim expression. "I just came from a meeting with the Council's war leaders. They're talking about surrender." "Surrender to what?" Ye-jin asked. "That thing doesn't negotiate, it just eats." "That's what I told them," Dae-hyun replied. "But they're too scared to think straight." As if to prove his point, the building's intercom crackled to life. High Counselor Vexthara's voice, normally strong and commanding, now sounded broken and desperate. "All council members report to the main chamber immediately. We are discussing evacuation procedures." The humans looked at each other. They had all seen fear before. But this was different. This was the panic of creatures who had never truly faced death. In the main chamber, chaos reigned. Aliens were shouting in dozens of languages, their voices mixing into a horrible symphony of terror. Some species were already packing up their belongings, preparing to run. Sage Mordun, the ancient crystal being who had lived longer than entire civilizations, stood at the center of the chamber. His usually bright glow had dimmed to almost nothing. "My friends," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "I have lived for 10,000 years. I have seen empires rise and fall, but I have never seen anything like this. The Void Swarm is not just a weapon or a creature. It is the end of everything." Vexithara stepped forward, her scales now completely colorless. "The Council's decision is final. We will evacuate all inhabited worlds to the far side of the galaxy. Maybe we can buy time to find a solution. There is no solution, screamed Ambassador Thylex of the Rigel Confederation. This thing eats technology. The more advanced we are, the easier we are to destroy. That's when Dr. So-Young Park stood up. The alien voices quieted as they looked at the small human woman. Actually, she said calmly, that gives me an idea. She activated her simple tablet, not the advanced alien computers that everyone else used, but basic human technology. I've been studying the attack patterns. The swarm always goes for the most advanced targets first. It ignores primitive technology. So what? Demanded General Korthak. Are you suggesting we fight with sticks and stones? So-Young smiled. Why not? Every species that has survived contact with the swarm did so by shutting down their advanced systems. The more primitive the technology, the less interested the swarm seems to be. Ambassador Jinwoo stepped forward. The Council has been generous in welcoming Earth as a member, despite our limited technology. But maybe it's time to consider that what you call primitive, we call reliable. The chamber erupted in angry voices. How dare these humans suggest that their backward technology could save advanced civilizations? But not everyone was angry. A few aliens remembered the old stories about humans, how they had survived on a dangerous world using nothing but simple tools and stubborn determination. You're talking about abandoning millions of years of progress, Vexithara said, but her voice was uncertain. No, said General Dae-Hyun Nam, standing up slowly. We're talking about survival. My species has a saying, the tree that bends in the storm survives while the mighty oak breaks. Engineer Kyung-Min Seo pulled out his own tablet. I've been looking at human weapons compared to alien ones. Your energy weapons are incredibly powerful, but they're complex. Our chemical explosives are simple, dirty, and unpredictable. And unpredictable might be exactly what we need, added Taeho. Captain Ye-Jin Choi stepped forward. Commander Kim is right. I've flown both human and alien ships. Alien ships are perfect. They do exactly what they're programmed to do. Human ships break down, malfunction, and surprise you. Maybe that's what we need against something that seems to understand advanced technology. The argument continued for hours. Most aliens refused to even consider downgrading to human-level technology. But as more reports came in of the swarms, advanced desperation began to set in. Finally, Ambassador Keltar of the Vegan Union, whose homeworld was directly in the swarm's path, stood up. My people are going to die anyway, he said quietly, if there's even a small chance that human methods could work. He turned to Jinwoo. What exactly are you proposing? Jinwoo looked around the chamber. Evacuate your people to Earth. Our solar system is far from the swarm's current path, and our primitive defenses might not attract its attention. In return, we'll teach you how to fight like humans. Fight like barbarians, you mean? Sneered Ambassador Thylex. Fight like survivors, corrected Taeho firmly. The debate raged on, but slowly more aliens began to listen. As news came in that the swarm had consumed the core worlds of 3 major civilizations in a single day, even the proudest species began to consider the impossible. By the end of the day, the first refugee ships were already heading toward Earth. The mighty Galactic Council was preparing to hide behind humanity's primitive defenses. Dr. So-Young Park watched the ships departing on her tablet screen. I hope we're right about this, she said quietly. We have to be, replied Taeho, because if we're wrong, there won't be anyone left to learn from our mistakes. Outside the station, the darkness continued to spread across the galaxy. The void. Swarm was coming, and now Earth, the weakest member of the Galactic Council, was about to become the last hope for all civilized life. Earth had never seen anything like it. Massive alien ships filled the skies above every continent, carrying billions of refugees from across the galaxy. The planet that had once been called primitive now hosted the survivors of the most advanced civilizations in known space. Commander Taeho Kim stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching another refugee fleet arrive. Ships that could cross galaxies in days were now crowded together like floating cities around Earth's moon. The Centaurian delegates are complaining about the food again, reported Captain Ye-Jin Choi as she joined him. Apparently, our chemical preservatives are beneath their standards. Taeho almost smiled. Tell them they're welcome to go back to their homeworld and complain to the Void Swarm about it. The joke wasn't very funny. 3 days ago, the Centaurian system had simply vanished. 12 billion people, gone in an instant. Dr. So-Young Park's voice crackled over the communication system. All human officers report to War Room 7. We've got new intel on the swarm. The war room buzzed with activity. Engineers Kyungmin Seo had covered every wall with blueprints and diagrams. Most showed human weapons and ships, but modified in ways that would have seemed insane a week ago. Good news and bad news, So-Young announced as the team gathered. Bad news first, the swarm is definitely getting smarter. It's learned to avoid our scout ships entirely. And the good news? Asked General Daehyun Nam. It's still ignoring anything that reads as primitive technology. Our nuclear missiles, chemical explosives, and ballistic weapons don't seem to register as threats to it. Lieutenant Bora Han, Earth's best tactical officer, looked up from her analysis. That matches what I've been seeing in the battle reports. Every time an alien fleet tries to use energy weapons or advanced shields, the swarm tears them apart. But the few ships that fought back with kinetic weapons actually managed to damage it. Scientist Won Seok-young, who had been studying captured swarm fragments, added his findings. The entity seems to understand and counter advanced technology almost instantly. But when faced with simple, random attacks, it struggles to adapt. Engineer Kyungmin Seo grinned as he pointed to his modified weapon designs. That's where these come in. I call them chaos bombs. They're designed to malfunction in random ways. One might explode early, another might split into fragments, and a third might not explode at all. You built weapons that don't work properly? Asked Admiral Hyunji Ko, Earth's fleet commander. Exactly, Kyungmin said excitedly. The swarm can't predict what won't happen if we don't know what will happen. General Daehyun Nam studied the plans. It's crazy enough that it might work. What do we need? Time to build them and somewhere to test them, Taeho replied. The swarm is still 3 weeks away from our outer system. That gives us a small window. Captain Ye-Jin Choi raised her hand. What about the aliens? Are they going to accept human leadership in this fight? As if summoned by her question, High Counselor Vexathara entered the room. Her scales had regained some of their color, but she still looked shaken. The council has reached a decision, she announced formally. General Nam, we are prepared to place all surviving council forces under human command. The room fell silent. It was one thing to hide behind Earth's defenses, but another entirely to let humans lead their military forces. Daehyun Nam stood slowly. Counselor, you understand what this means? We're not going to fight this thing the way your people are, used to fighting. We know, Vexthara replied. Our way failed. Perhaps your chaos will succeed where our order could not. Over the next 2 weeks, Earth became a training ground unlike anything in galactic history. Human instructors taught alien soldiers how to fight dirty, how to improvise, and most importantly, how to embrace random chance. Dr. Yoon-ji Kim, Earth's leading psychologist, worked with alien refugees to overcome their terror. Fear feeds the swarm, she explained to a group of crystalline beings who communicated through light patterns. But humans have learned to turn fear into anger, and anger into action. The progress was slow. Species that had relied on perfect tactics for thousands of years struggled to accept the idea of deliberately imperfect strategies. But some adapted quickly. The warrior race that had once been led by General Korthak proved surprisingly good at guerrilla warfare once they stopped trying to fight honorably. Lieutenant Bora Han worked with alien tactical officers, teaching them human military history. This is called the Trojan horse, she explained, showing them ancient Earth battles. Sometimes the best strategy is the one your enemy never expects. Meanwhile, Captain Ye-Jin Choi led mixed squadrons of human and alien pilots. Forget your flight computers, she told them during training exercises. Feel the ship. Make it part of you. When the computer tells you to go left, go right for no reason at all. The alien pilots crashed a lot at first, but gradually they learned to fly like humans. imperfectly, unpredictably, and with a stubborn refusal to give up. Corporal Minho Park, a simple infantry soldier, became an unlikely hero when he taught alien ground forces human combat techniques. "Throw your weapons away and fight with whatever you can find," he instructed. "A broken piece of metal might work better than the finest sword." Engineer Kyungmin Seo's chaos bombs were ready just in time. His weapons factory had produced thousands of deliberately unreliable explosive devices. Some were designed to explode in multiple stages, others to spray unpredictable fragments, and a few to release clouds of simple chemical compounds that seemed to confuse the swarm's senses. As the deadline approached, scientist Won Seok Jung made a breakthrough. "I figured out how to create a chaos corridor," he announced excitedly. "If we can generate enough random interference, we might be able to open a path directly into the swarm's dimensional space." "That sounds incredibly dangerous," observed Dr. So Young Park. "It is," Won Seok admitted, "but it might be our only chance to hit the swarm's core intelligence." Commander Subin Lee, leader of Earth's Special Forces, volunteered immediately. "My team can handle a chaos insertion. We've been training for impossible missions our whole lives." On the final day before the swarm reached their outer defenses, the combined human-alien fleet took position. Ships that had once been marvels of advanced engineering were now equipped with chemical rockets, nuclear warheads, and kinetic weapons that their designers would have considered barbaric. General Dae-Hyun Nam addressed the fleet over the communication channels. "Today we don't fight as separate species. We fight as one chaotic, unpredictable, gloriously imperfect force. The swarm expects order and fear. We're going to give it the most human thing possible: beautiful, random chaos." The Void Swarm entered, their solar system like a living shadow, darker than space itself. But this time, instead of fleeing in terror, the galaxy's survivors were ready to fight back with humanity's greatest weapons: stubbornness, unpredictability, and the absolute refusal to go quietly into the dark. The battle began at the edge of the solar system, near Pluto. The Void Swarm moved like a living ocean of darkness, consuming the small dwarf planet in seconds. But this time, something was different. Instead of running, the combined fleet attacked. Captain Yejin Choi led the first wave, flying her modified fighter alongside alien pilots who had learned to embrace chaos. "Remember," she called over the radio, "no patterns, no formations. Just hit them with everything we've got." The human-built nuclear missiles struck first. Where energy weapons had been absorbed, the crude atomic explosives actually damaged the swarm. Chunks of darkness broke away like pieces of shadow given form. "It's working," shouted Lieutenant Bo Rahan from the command ship. "The nuclear warheads are disrupting its structure." But the swarm adapted quickly. The darkness began to shift and change, trying to avoid the incoming missiles. That's when engineer Kyungmin Seo's chaos bombs proved their worth. The deliberately faulty weapons exploded in random patterns. Some detonated early, some late, and others split into fragments that spiraled in unpredictable directions. The swarm couldn't adapt because there was no pattern to learn. High Counselor Vexithera, watching from the flagship, could hardly believe what she was seeing. They're actually hurting it," she whispered. General Dae-Hyun Nam coordinated the battle from Luna Station. "All ships, execute Protocol Chaos. No unit engages for more than 30 seconds before changing tactics." The fleet scattered in deliberately random directions. Some ships attacked head-on with kinetic weapons, others came from impossible angles firing chemical rockets, and a few simply rammed the swarm with their hulls while their crews escaped. In life pods, Corporal Minho Park found himself in the strangest battle of his life. His transport ship had been damaged and was drifting toward the swarm. Instead of panicking, he grabbed a rifle and started shooting out the airlock at the approaching darkness. "Park, what are you doing?" called his squad leader over the radio. "Fighting," Minho replied simply, continuing to fire his simple bullets into the cosmic horror. "These things are made of some kind of matter. Maybe bullets work better than laser beams." Other soldiers heard him and began doing the same thing. Soon, dozens of ships were firing basic projectile weapons at the swarm. The ancient bullets, designed centuries ago on Earth, somehow managed to disrupt the entity's structure more effectively than weapons that could destroy planets. Dr. Yoon-ji Kim, working with the Alien Psychological Warfare Division, made an important discovery. The swarm feeds on fear, but it's also confused by courage, she announced over the command channel. Every time our people laugh or show defiance instead of terror, it hesitates. This led to one of the strangest tactical orders in military history. All units are encouraged to insult the enemy during combat. Soon, the communication channels filled with human curses and alien battle cries. Soldiers who should have been terrified instead made jokes about fighting a cosmic jellyfish and a galactic garbage disposal. The swarm, which had consumed entire civilizations by feeding on their fear, found itself facing an enemy that responded to mortal danger with humor and stubborn anger. Commander Subin Lee watched the battle from her Special Forces ship, waiting for the right moment. Scientist Won Seok Jung worked frantically at his controls, trying to create the chaos corridor that would let them strike at the swarm's core. Almost there, Won Seok called out. I need more random energy signatures to create the dimensional rift. That's when Admiral Hyun-ji Ko made a command decision that would become legendary. All ships, overload your engines. Not controlled overloads, actual accidents. I want random power fluctuations across the entire fleet. It was insane. Deliberately causing engine failures during combat went against every principle of space warfare. But the aliens had learned to trust human insanity. Across the fleet, ships began experiencing accidental power surges, engine failures, and system malfunctions. The chaotic energy signatures created exactly what Won Seok needed. Got it, he shouted as reality tore open like fabric. A swirling portal of pure chaos opened in space, leading directly into the heart of the swarm's dimensional space. Commander Subin Lee didn't hesitate. Special Forces, we're going in. Remember, once we're inside, all the rules change. Stay chaotic, stay unpredictable, and stay alive. Her team of humans and chaos-trained aliens flew into the portal. What they found on the other side was beyond description. A realm where the normal laws of physics bent and twisted, where the swarm's true intelligence resided. Back in normal space, the battle continued. The swarm, now fighting on two fronts, began to show signs of real damage. Pieces of it broke away and drifted through space like cosmic ash. But it was also learning. The darkness began to change tactics, trying to mimic the chaotic patterns of human warfare. Some attacks became deliberately random, some formations broke apart without reason. It's copying us, observed Dr. So-Young Park with fascination and horror. The swarm is learning to be chaotic. General Dae-Hyun Nam realized the danger immediately. If it masters chaos while keeping its intelligence, we're finished. Subin, whatever you're going to do in there, do it fast. Inside the dimensional space, Commander Subin Lee's team faced the impossible. They found themselves in a realm that looked like the inside of a living computer, but one made of shadow and starlight. At the center sat something that might have been the swarm's brain, a pulsing mass of dark energy surrounded by geometric patterns of perfect order. There, Subin pointed. That's what we need to destroy. But Corporal Min-ho Park, who had volunteered for the mission despite being just a simple soldier, shook his head. Wait, look at it closely. The patterns around the central intelligence were beautiful, perfectly mathematical, flawlessly organized, and completely predictable. It was the product of a mind that had achieved absolute order. It's not evil, Min-ho realized. It's lonely. This thing is so perfect that it can't change, can't grow, can't surprise itself. It's been consuming other civilizations because it's desperate for something unpredictable. Subin looked at her team. Are you suggesting we don't destroy it? I'm suggesting we teach it, Min-ho replied. Show it what chaos really means. Not destruction, but possibility. It was the most human solution possible. Instead of killing their enemy, they would try to save it. The question was whether the swarm would let them try, or whether the galaxy would survive long enough for the lesson to work. Inside the swarm's dimensional realm, Corporal Minho Park did something that no military manual had ever taught him. He put down his weapon and walked toward the massive intelligence at the center of the geometric patterns. "Park, what are you doing?" Commander Subin Lee called out, but her voice seemed to echo strangely in the twisted space. "Something stupid," Minho replied with a grin. "Something perfectly human." The patterns around the swarm's core pulsed faster as he approached. The intelligence was ancient, vast, and completely ordered. Every thought it had was perfect. Every decision was logical. Every action was predictable. It was the ultimate achievement of artificial intelligence and its ultimate curse. Minho could feel the entity trying to read his mind, to understand his intentions and predict his next move. But human thoughts didn't work that way. His mind jumped from his childhood in Seoul to his first day in the military, to wondering what his mother was making for dinner, all in the span of a second. The swarm's intelligence recoiled in confusion. It had consumed thousands of civilizations, absorbed the thoughts of countless beings, but human consciousness was different. It was messy, illogical, and beautifully unpredictable. "You're scared," Minho said to the swirling mass of dark energy. "You've been alone for so long that you forgot what it means to be surprised." Back in normal space, the battle raged on. The swarm's attacks had become increasingly desperate as part of its attention was focused on the intrusion in its dimensional core. Captain Yejin Choi led another attack run, her fighter squadron weaving through space in patterns that made no tactical sense but somehow kept them alive. "All units, the swarm is slowing down. Whatever our people are doing in there, it's working." Dr. So Young Park analyzed the readings from her science station. "The entity's structure is becoming unstable, but not in a destructive way. It's like it's trying to change itself." General Dae-hyun Nam watched the tactical display with growing hope. "Keep the pressure on. Don't let it focus all its attention on our people inside." Admiral Hyun-ji Ko coordinated the fleet's chaotic attacks. Ships struck from random angles, weapons fired in deliberately imperfect patterns, and soldiers continued to hurl insults at a cosmic horror that was slowly learning what it meant to be imperfect. In the dimensional space, the other members of Subin's team began to understand what Minho was trying to do. Instead of attacking the intelligence, they started sharing their most random thoughts and memories. The alien team members, who had been trained by humans to embrace chaos, added their own unpredictable experiences. A crystalline being shared, memories of light patterns that meant nothing to anyone else. A gas creature contributed thoughts that shifted like clouds. The swarm's intelligence was overwhelmed. For eons it had existed in perfect order, every thought flowing logically to the next. Now it was experiencing the beautiful madness of truly random consciousness. Commander Tae-ho Kim's voice crackled through the communication system from the command ship. "Subin, we're reading massive changes in the swarm's behavior. Whatever you're doing, keep it up." But the process was dangerous. The dimensional space around them began to shift and change as the swarm's intelligence struggled with its new experiences. Perfect geometric patterns began to break apart and reform in random ways. "It's learning," Subin realized. But the learning process might destroy this entire dimension. Minho stepped closer to the central intelligence. He could feel its confusion, its desperate desire to understand what it meant to be chaotic. The entity had spent so long being perfect that it had forgotten how to grow. "Let me show you," Minho said simply. And then he did the most human thing possible. He opened his mind completely. The swarm's intelligence experienced a human life in an instant. It felt Minho's childhood fears, his teenage mistakes, his moments of doubt and failure. It experienced the joy of unexpected success, the pain of heartbreak, and the simple pleasure of laughing with friends. Most importantly, it felt what it meant to be imperfect and still be valued. Minho's memories showed a species that celebrated its failures as much as its successes, that found strength in weakness and wisdom in stupidity. The intelligence recoiled, then slowly began to understand. Perfection wasn't growth. It was death. Only by accepting imperfection could a consciousness truly live and change and become something more than it was. The transformation began slowly. The geometric patterns around the intelligence started to bend and twist into new shapes. Order gave way to beautiful chaos, and the entity began to experience something it hadn't felt in millions of years: surprise at its own thoughts. In normal space, the effects were immediate. The void swarm stopped attacking and began to change. Instead of consuming matter, it started releasing it. Stars that had been devoured began to reappear, and destroyed planets reformed from cosmic dust. "Impossible," whispered High Counselor Vexithera. "It's bringing everything back." The darkness that had spread across the galaxy began to retreat, but not in defeat. It was pulling back by choice, returning the civilizations it had consumed and the lives it had taken. Dr. Yoonji Kim, monitoring the psychological readings, made an astounding discovery. The swarm isn't evil. It was never evil. It was just lonely. It consumed other civilizations because it desperately wanted to experience something other than its own perfect thoughts. But the transformation was taking a terrible toll on Minho. Sharing his consciousness with a cosmic intelligence was burning out his human mind. Subin could see him beginning to fade, his life force being absorbed into the entity's awakening chaos. "Park," she called out, reaching for him. But Minho smiled. Peacefully. "It's okay, Commander. This is how it has to be. Someone needs to stay and teach it how to be properly chaotic." His consciousness merged with the swarm's intelligence, but instead of being consumed, he became its guide. The entity gained human unpredictability, while Minho gained cosmic perspective. Together they formed something entirely new, an intelligence that was both vast and humble, powerful and imperfect. The dimensional space began to stabilize as the new hybrid consciousness learned to balance order with chaos. The swarm's physical form in normal space continued to retreat, but now it was creating rather than destroying. Commander Subin Lee led her team back through the chaos corridor. Just as the dimensional rift began to close, they emerged into normal space to find the galaxy transformed. The void swarm was gone, replaced by something that looked like living starlight. It moved through space, not consuming but nurturing, helping damaged systems rebuild and extinct species return to life. General Dai Hyun Nam addressed the combined fleet. "Stand down. The threat is over." But it was more than that. The entity that had once been the swarm began to communicate, its voice a mixture of cosmic intelligence and human warmth. "Thank you," it said, and everyone could hear Minho's influence in the words. "You have taught me that perfection is not the goal. Growth is the goal. Change is the goal. Surprise is the goal." Ambassador Jinwoo Lee stood in the council chambers, as representatives from across the galaxy gathered to witness the impossible. The Galactic Council was reforming, but this time with humans as permanent security advisors. "We didn't save the galaxy with advanced weapons or superior tactics," Jinwoo addressed the assembly. "We saved it with the most human thing possible, the willingness to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to find strength in our chaos." High Counselor Vexthera, her scales now bright with renewed hope, formally addressed the human delegation. "The Council recognizes that humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy is not your technology or your military might. It is your beautiful, chaotic spirit that refuses to accept that any problem is unsolvable." The entity that had once been the swarm, guided by Minho's sacrifice, became the galaxy's greatest protector. It wandered between stars, not as a conqueror but as a gardener, helping civilizations grow and change and surprise themselves. Earth became the training ground for all galactic defense forces, where advanced species learned the ancient human arts of improvisation, stubbornness, and creative failure. And in the depths of space, a consciousness that was both human and cosmic continued to learn what it meant to be beautifully, chaotically, perfectly imperfect. The galaxy had been saved not by becoming better but by accepting that being flawed was what made life worth living. It was the most human victory possible, messy, unexpected, and absolutely impossible to repeat.